Welcome to another AVID Chat. Jack, good to see you today.
Good to see you, Dave.
If you're joining us, it should be January 5th, 2022. We kick off another year. Pretty exciting to see what's in front of us.
Yeah. It's 22, which is crazy. It's just every year I feel like it goes by faster and faster. It's insane.
Yes, that's right. And that's really the theory of today. We spend a lot of time, not just in finances, but personally. No matter who you're talking to, you talk about kind of what's next, what's in the future, what are you doing this year, what are your resolutions. But we also think that in addition to the resolution side is to do some sort of self-review, just to check up a review of last year and how you did. I think it's applicable, Jack, whether it's personal things, what things you wanted to change, health-wise, finances. There's so many different gamuts that it covers. But the importance is to just say, we would say as planners, are we improving? And a great way to do that is just to take a step back and say, okay, how did 2021 go?
Yeah, right. And I mean, if you've never done this in the past, next year, this time, the following year, you have something to look back on. Like, here's what I was, trying to accomplish, and did it work? Did it not work? And why did it not work? And what things can I do different? I think it's cool to see your expectations from a year ago and kind of your assumptions, and also just like how much things change and how many events are kind of unforeseen, and just like your predictions of the future and like what will happen and how much it changes just in a year, which hopefully would inform the fact that 5 years from now, like who knows, what
Right.
things will be important to you and what you're trying to accomplish and what your goals are. So anyways, yeah, I think doing a review's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that it can actually lead to is everybody talks about, what's your New Year's resolution? What are you going to do different?
Right.
And we talk all the time that it doesn't just have to happen in January.
Yeah.
But if you look back, let's say that my personal resolution was like to increase my savings rate this year. And that was my goal going into January of 2021. Now that I'm through that, I could look back and say, okay, how did we do? And what came up? Did I meet the goal? Did I not meet the goal? And maybe there's a number of things that impacted hitting the goal or missing it, really, because I think if anything, you get let down and you kind of tend to give up. If we look back and say, okay, well, these things unexpectedly came up and therefore I wasn't able to hit it. Now I'm more mindful, and maybe I need to adjust my savings goal for 2022. And maybe I was aiming super high and it was just out of reach and I couldn't hit it. So now I can be more realistic. But if I didn't look back, I could very easily just say, well, that stinks. That's a letdown. Let me try something different.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I think you have to give yourself a little bit of, there's this weird kind of balance between, you have to give yourself enough leeway to, not accomplish something, especially if you're pushing yourself. There's no guarantee that you'll get there. If it was easy to get there, it's not much of a goal probably. But also you have to give yourself enough leeway to say, it is hard. I am pushing myself and there's a chance I might not reach it. I saw the other day, there's probably a million examples of this, but Kobe Bryant, he was just maniacal about getting good at basketball. And, essentially he's like, I want to be the perfect basketball player. And I will never actually get there, but that's what gets me up in the morning to push, is there's always something to be improving on. And there's nothing wrong with setting we've talked about high level objectives, intermediate goals, like having really ambitious high level objectives, and then giving yourself kind of, somebody would call it like a stretch goal. Like, I'm really going to push myself to do this thing and see how it goes. I think some of the trap of making them New Year's resolutions is you just don't give yourself enough time to reset. Like if you set a New Year's resolution and 2 weeks later you've bombed on it, well, set a new resolution. Like, there's no rule that says you have to wait until, guess I'm not doing it till next year. Like, you can always give it another shot in 2 weeks. Like, all right, 2 weeks went by, I did it for 7 days and I didn't do it for 7 days. What was the hurdle? Like, why did I stop on day 8? All right, let me get back at it and just, keep pushing. So, but it's good. Like you said, to do a review too, to think about, what did I want to accomplish and what didn't I? Also, financial goals are great. Health goals are great. These things are great. I think it's super duper awesome to do like a values-based goal. So we've talked about, one is you need to know these things. You need to have them in some kind of order as to what's important. But if you did some kind of values exercise and you decided adventure is very high up on the list for me, but I don't have a ton of adventure in my life, I feel like I'm missing out on that. I'm resolving this year to add more adventure into my life. How could I do that? Well, I could do A, B, C, or whatever the goal would be is to add. So you can have values-based things. I actually think those are a little bit more attractive than, financial-based, or I want to lose 10 pounds, or these kinds of numerically based, quantitative type things. I think the values-based things are a little bit more attractive and a little bit more motivating because you feel like you're pushing towards a value. So don't be shy of making values-based goals too. I think those are very helpful.
Yeah. That reminds me of the acronym SMART, which most people equate to, sales, some sort of specific, measurable, attainable, those ones. But from the value side, there's significant, meaningful, attractive, rewarding, and timely, all based on that feeling of this is going to help my core, what drives me. So it's a little, I guess, acronym to keep in mind as you're thinking about those. And I think it's a great point. You stretch yourself a little bit, right? And don't get caught up on if I don't meet this goal right off the bat, I'm throwing it in the towel. I can attest to this personally right now. We have some construction going on in the backyard. And 3 months ago, leading up to this, I said, well, when this event happens, I'm going to start running again and doing push-ups because I haven't done it since I haven't played soccer in almost 2 years, which is crazy. Well, that construction started 2.5 weeks ago and I haven't done a single push-up and I haven't ran one step. So I'm not throwing that in the towel, and I'm coming up with personally every excuse in the book not to start today. However, it's not out the window, and I will do it. And I put on record, this will be in the, internet, hold me to it. I will start doing this. But I'm not giving up. And I think it's more about the value of getting back in shape and having energy, chasing kids and not, passing out or feeling like my head's going to blow up.
Well, there you go. That's that's the thing you want to tell yourself. You're not running just to run like a fool down the street. I want to get in better shape. I need to be able to chase kids around. Obviously, son plays soccer. I want to be able to do that. I don't want to set a good example, whatever it is. Those are more values-based things where that's something to push towards. And maybe running it down the street or something is the thing, but maybe it isn't. Maybe it's some other thing that may be the thing that you'd want to get into, which is why, this is a tactics, values, purpose thing. It's like the tactics might change. And I wouldn't necessarily sell yourself on a particular tactic. I have something I want to accomplish. I'm going to try this. And then if you try that and it doesn't work, or there's whatever, it's just not ringing true to you, well, try a different tactic. You try different tactics. There's all kinds of ways that you could do it. It's more just if you have that kind of North Star of this is the value. Here's why I'm doing this. It's easier to, like you mentioned, increasing the savings rate. How boring. If you say for what reason though? Well, here's the reason I want to do it because I'd be able to do X or Y, or I want to retire, or it doesn't, whatever the purpose is. It's easier to make those changes when you have some kind of purpose versus just some random tactic that you're trying because you think it's a good idea.
Well, I want to go back to what you just said earlier, which was the don't being stuck on the tactic, right? I said leading up to me personally, the kind of running and push-ups, that's my tactic to quote unquote get in shape, let's call it. But the driving force really is Clayton's 7, Lucy is 5. He plays soccer. We've talked about this. And I enjoy being out there. I coach his team. I run with him. So a new tactic that I could try would be at practice, maybe we get there a little bit early and Clayton and I run some sprints together, right? We kind of race and have fun with it. And that helps me do it. It's a thing that we do together, which is a value thing, but it also shows him a little extra work, getting to the field early, preparing, loosening up. So I'm glad that you said that because we tend to get stuck in, got to do it this way. If I don't cut up carbs, I'm never going to lose weight. That's not always the case.
It's just tactic after tactic with no purpose or direction. You start flailing around. and you're not really making progress. And then you start beating yourself up. Like, it's me. I'm a broken individual. Like, I can't accomplish it. There's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's more just like a cart horse thing. Like, you've just put the tactics before the purpose. If you just have some kind of objective that you're trying to accomplish, well, then you can be creative as what's the best way for me to reach this objective? There's 100 tactics I could try, and it might not be the first one that I try. That might not work, but I'm not giving up. I'm going to try the next one, and I'm never going to quit because I want to get to this particular point, and it's important to me because X, Y, Z, and that's why I'm going to get there. And if it doesn't work today, well, damn, I'm going to try again tomorrow. I'm going to try something else. I'm going to keep pushing until I get there. This is the Kobe Bryant, be a perfect basketball player. Maybe today it's, I need to work on my free throws, but maybe it's, I'm doing this or I'm doing that. There's millions of tactics you can try, but then if you have a purpose, it kind of brings those things into focus as to why you're doing those things, which is constant. I mean, if there's one thing that I see on a regular basis, this is all the talk, anybody, even when you talk to people, any online, any Twitter talk, anything I see about personal finance or anything, everything, and things you read on the internet, everything is tactics driven. It's just more tactics. Tactics. Here's a tactic, and it's just a million tactics. You end up collecting lots of tactics with no purpose, and you just try random things, and you get good at lots of different tactics, but you're never actually making any progress towards something because you don't even know what the something is that you're making progress towards. You're just trying different things because you think the next person's done it, and maybe I should do that too.
Yeah, so the key then is to start with the value. Figure out what that core value is. For me, it's making sure that I maintain a healthy state of being to interact with my children as long as I possibly can. That's my value. Now, what I should do, and what you can do, I think this is a great exercise to do with a friend, family member, is what are all the options? I could run, I can do push-ups, I can go to the soccer field early, I could swim, I could play basketball. I mean, there's endless tactics out there. Maybe that's a good idea to start if you're trying to come up with a resolution. Figure out the value. What's the purpose of what you want to do? And then just start listing, brainstorming all of these different ways of accomplishing it. Pick one that you think is a good start. Try it. If it doesn't work, cross it off. Go to the next one.
Yeah, exactly. If you have a resolution, which is fine to do. I actually think they're very good. I love New Year's resolutions. I'm definitely an advocate for making New Year's resolutions. But yes, have a value. What is the purpose of why you're doing this? Because hopefully that won't change in 2 weeks when your kind of faith is waning on what you're doing, and that won't go away. So if 2 weeks later you feel like I was pretty been inconsistent, just remind yourself why you're doing it and maybe try something else, or maybe that will just give you the kick in the pants that you need to get back at whatever you were doing before and not quit and give up, because the goal is not to run every day. The goal is to be a healthy person for another 25, 30 years so you can see your kids grow up and run around with them. Like, that's the purpose. It's not to run a bunch. Like, that's not the purpose. The other purpose is the value. So, yeah, I'm big time into resolutions. And like I said, I don't think you just have to do them on New Year's. You can resolve every Monday to do better on something.
Yep. Well, and it never ends. And that it's kind of a cyclical process, because at the end of, let's say, 2022, I should be able to look back and say, okay, one, am I healthier, or have I gotten closer or worked towards my core value? And if that answer is yes or no, at least I could look back and say, well, these are the things I tried, right? This is my review of my personal attempt to work towards my value. Yeah. What worked, what didn't work? Maybe along the way, I find something that actually stems some passion. So then when you have a value and a tactic that you're passionate about, it's the whole, I don't really have a job. I love what I do. It's not work. It's a very similar thing. I'm a runner. I'm healthy because I love to run, and they match well.
It's a nice byproduct of something I like to do. The byproduct of something I like to do is I get to do this fun thing that I really like to do. The happy outcome is I'm a healthier person, or I enjoy myself, but lots of good things come along with it. So I would want to say, I was just talking about lots of things. We want to try to sometimes put these things into concrete terms, like how you could actually do this, which is a little bit of a tactic, but We've talked in the past, like, so we're talking about matching your values and things. I don't know how many times people have watched these videos. So if you're watching this and you're wondering, how, I don't know what my values are, how to come up with it. We did a video on values vocabulary, which just talks about using other terms. And then we listed maybe 10 or so out of values, but there's lots more of those. So you can always go online and try to find a list of values. I do find it instructive to expand the words that you're using to come up with values. If you have, say, 100, or if you find a list of them, you know, what you can do is you can just say not important, important, most important, and then you can kind of put those values into particular order. If you have something in the most important pile, hopefully that's something between 5 and 10 values, then you order those in importance, which is important. You want to have a number 1 and number 2. You want to put them in order. Then you have some kind of values to shoot for. So it's not just, you know, obviously we're saying focus on your values, but the way you could do that is you need to actually have a list first of here are my values and things that are important to me. And this is what I'm shooting for. And here's how these kind of tactics, these kind of things, these actions that I'm using are working towards this value. So when you wake up in the morning and you think, oh God, another day of running or something, you can say, but I remind myself, this is why I'm doing this. So let me, you know, kind of get myself out of bed and get to work. I got stuff to do.
Yep, that's right. And I was trying to look for, as you were talking, the just to show on the screen that clip of the values in the list. There's so many of them. We can put that link in the video or another reference as to just take that list and, like you said, whittle it down. And we have some exercises as well, some cards that we use that can help facilitate that.
Yeah, and you could go on Google and just search like value words or list of values, and probably, you know, there's going to be every list, you'll find a list of 50 or 75 or 100. There's lots of value words out there that you could use. Because sometimes it's hard to think of, you know, what are my values? Like family, you know, those are kind of the obvious ones, but things like adventure and competence and, you know, these kinds of things are values that maybe you do value, just aren't thinking those are really values. So anyways, you know, get a list, try to put them in some kind of order, get yourself a list, and then try to figure out what are the actions that I could take to work me towards these types of values. Yep.
Great place to end. Yep. If we can play a role in any of your success with either setting resolutions or accomplishing that, or even helping with the value games, we'd love to be a part of it. If you like the video, go to the YouTube channel, like it, make a comment, subscribe, pass it on to a friend. Pass us along. That's what we're here doing this for you and for us both. And we wish you all a happy 2022.
Yep. All right. See you, Dave.
We'll see you.